everybody. How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast Rolling Stone Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, live fans, cover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians, and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are all sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire bill. Use the code CBPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Look at the podcast below. Let's go to our feature presentation. I'm going into prog death metal with this one. Yeah, a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but we got Kyle from Fallujah on the podcast today. The band's releasing their brand new album, Xenotaph, on June 13th, 2025. Join us as now we talk about why this album is so special for Kyle, specifically how he was involved in the writing process of this, but also how that writing process went and why albums are still the way to go for rock and metal. Yeah. Even in the streaming dominated world, we're still saying screw you to singles. We're going with albums. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. You know I primarily stick in that, hard rock, punk rock, especially in the metalcore world. So when a prog death metal band comes my way, I'm like, interesting. During my time at Sonic Temple, I was asking my friends about, hey, have you heard of this band? And they just said, dude, you got to get him on the podcast. Are you kidding me? You got to get Fallujah on the podcast. So I said, okay, we're doing it then. They got a brand new album called Xenotaph coming out on June 13th of 2025, and a lot of great stuff to come on that album, which I already listened to, and more after that. But enough of me trying to hype it up and, tell stories. Let's just bring the man himself here. So please welcome Kyle from Fallujah, the podcast. So Kyle, welcome to Chord Progression Podcast.
Yo, what's up? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here, man. Dude, how is everything going in your world, especially as, we're coming right up to the time when the new album's about to drop, and again, exciting as hell, but how's life been going? I know I already asked that question before we hit record, but now I want everyone to know, how's life been going?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so you're right. We're now less than a month away from the album, so that's cool. It's exciting. We've dropped 3 singles from it, which is also cool. We just dropped the newest one a couple days ago, so we're in new song mode right now. Brand new song just came out a few days ago. We're very excited. I'm extra excited for this album for a lot of reasons that I'm sure we'll end up talking about. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a extra special one for me. But yeah, it's good. Life's been really busy. A lot of Fallujah stuff going on. A lot of personal things going on. With I had my first kid about 5 months ago. I wrapped up in a bunch of projects right now. Falluja's not going on tour immediately, but I'm filling in for a friend's band tour very soon. So it's a lot going on at once. But it's all cool, exciting, fun things. So yeah, doing busy and good. Doing well.
A busy man and somehow has enough time in his day to sit down with me and talk all about Fallujah, which is utterly fantastic. Sir, I would say I don't know how you do it, but I've been in those situations where I'm I don't know how I fit everything together in my day or in my week or month, but it just happens. So I know exactly what you mean. I do want to ask, though, which band are you filling in for on tour so maybe people can come get a look at you playing before Fallujah goes back on tour?
Yeah, it's funny because it's not announced yet, but we're announcing it in a couple days. So I'm sure by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be it'll be public info. It's a friend's band called Grey Lotus. They're cool. They're on the Artisan Era records. They're it's very technical, dense, intense stuff. But yeah, a couple of good friends of mine are in this band. Their vocalist, who was amazing, quit a few months ago, and they just needed somebody to fill in for this one tour. So yeah, it should be fun. It's always interesting rolling with a different crew, and seeing how they tour. It's always different. But yeah, it should be fun. Go check out Grey Lotus, and we're going on tour with Empyrean is the headliner, another great Nashville band that I'm good friends with. Vitriol and Demon King. So yeah, very tech death sort of lineup.
Very tech death sort of lineup. I know a lot of people in the Milwaukee area that would be totally down to see something like that. So I'm not even sure if you guys are coming around here, but if not, there's probably somewhere around here coming. We're not too far from Chicago. I can send everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure we're coming through. I need to check the dates, but I think there may be a Milwaukee show.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, as we're recording this right now, day 1 of Milwaukee Metal Fest is happening. So, yeah. And instead of being at Metal Fest, I'm interviewing somebody who is perfectly in that space. That'll probably be playing it next year, to be honest with you. But
I would love that. Yeah, hopefully. Well, I haven't really done many festivals with the band yet. like since my time in the band. Like Fallujah has played many of the festivals before, so I'm just waiting for my turn, for the Fallujah festivals.
I mean, that might be 2026 for you guys, the Fallujah Festival run, or Fallujah Festival Fun, the FFF.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Especially with the new album coming out, that's always a great time to get onto stuff like that. It's like when you've got that new album hype going for you.
Oh, absolutely. Or even, after the album comes out and maybe it's been out for, a year, just the new album build up that you guys had from the momentum from it now hitting the festival circuit, whether it's the festival circuit here in America or the summer circuit over in Europe as well. There's a lot of possibilities for where Fallujah and you guys can go with your music in terms of bringing it to the masses in the festival aspect of it.
Totally, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see what we end up doing.
I'm excited to see that too. And yeah, you're right. This episode will definitely come out after that announcement's been made. So I'm glad you're able to say it right
cool.
then and there.
Yeah.
But right away when you started this, you said this album, Xenotaph, was very special for you in a number of ways. And I don't want to, try and fluff it up or try and elongate the time. I want to dive right into it. So when it came to this album specifically, this new album, why is it so special for you? What was that piece or those pieces that really made it stand out for you in the creation process now that it's completed?
Sure, yeah. So, okay, one big thing for me is that this is my second album with Fallujah. It's the band's sixth album overall, but I just joined for our fifth album, Empyrean, in 2022. And when I joined for that album, basically the album was already in progress. Like, I joined at a point where I was able to write my own lyrics and vocal parts and stuff, but like the instrumental demos were all already there. Like I was very much joining a band that was in the middle of writing an album and wanted somebody to help them finish it. And so like with that in mind, like even though I was able to write my own stuff and express myself in it, I was like my goal was to help this band finish this project they already had a vision for, and so like I kind of I was conscious about not straying too far from the script in terms of like especially with that album, like the goal was kind of to make it like a return to form Fallujah album after like some changes the band had made over the years. So it was like I was concerned with like, okay, I'm the new guy coming in, but like rather than trying to be the captain of the ship and change things around, I'm like my goal is to make this sound like the new Fallujah album that people would want, like, and I was just very conscious of it, like wanted to like fit in and do this job I was hired to do, basically like make the Fallujah album. And on this album, as opposed to that, like we started writing it from scratch together, basically, like from the ground up. Because this is my first album being fully involved with the whole process with Fallujah. And like, even though I'm just a vocalist in Fallujah, I play guitar too. In all my other projects, I'm used to writing all the music and doing like song structures and arrangements and stuff like that. And so it was fun being involved to a certain degree with that type of stuff on this new album. And I think just the fact that my first album with the band, Empyrean, was received very well and like, we toured, like met all the fans and stuff, like just, I feel very accepted and very like comfortable in my position in the band now. And so I think I felt very confident going into this album with like, okay, that was the like me fitting into Fallujah album. Now let's do the like whatever I want album in terms of like yeah, I think it's in a very natural way. Like there's a lot of shared influences between me and the other guys. And so like I think we just in a natural way just went into all those same roots that we share in terms of music. But to me this album is very true to the music that I love and that the music that we love collectively, like our overlapped influences. And yeah, I just felt very like now looking back at the last album, I feel like I restrained myself a lot on that one. Where this one I feel like I'm just doing whatever I want to do. And sometimes that means like doing more of the clean vocals. Sometimes it just means throwing more surprises into the arrangements and song structures and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like this is my first album being like fully integrated for the whole process.
So that makes sense too now, especially thinking about why this album is so special for you, going from just trying to fit into the structure that was already there to now being part of what's going to create that structure, what's going to create that sound going forward. And being that, again, especially from a vocalist standpoint, a focal point of how is this going to be arranged in order to make sure that this vocal piece could potentially be much more upfront, much more powerful, delivered in a way that's going to hit people the way that, not only Fallujah fans expect, but maybe a way they don't expect, but they absolutely are dying to hear in the end. It's different too when, if you think about it, and this is anybody in any capacity, think about a project you worked on maybe in school, or when you were doing something as, just on your own, or a business that you're trying to start, or maybe you joined in somebody else's stuff. Whenever you join in halfway through the process and they want your creative input, or they want something, we need you to help out with this. Now the bones are already in place. That structure's already there. Again, you're trying to fit in there, and you just don't have as heavy of a connection to it because you didn't go through that full process. You don't have the emotional attachment from beginning of the process to where you began to be included in there. Of course, you can find some attachment to it, but it's just not as embedded in you as it is when you're fully involved right from the beginning of it, right from the jump, right from the get-go. Plus, being involved from the jump on Xenotaph, you're able to put your added influences in there too and show continued progression, continued evolution of Fallujah's sound, even with the previous album being more of like that back to form. Now it's seen, okay, where can we continue to expand from here? Because over the time, people change, people's perceptions change, tastes change, different things that resonate with you change, and you're going to want to add that in there. And it's going to create that timestamp of now this time when, for you specifically, you were fully involved in the process, and now are fully, maybe especially on the creative side, fully a part of Fallujah compared to where you were back in the previous album that you guys released.
Totally. And on that previous one too, like it's I don't even mean it in a bad way that I was like restrained or whatever. Like I didn't want it to sound like a new guy came in halfway through and like changed the plans. You know what I mean? Like it's like the album already had a vision and was heading a certain way, and I was like, okay, let me try to support that. Like, again, not even like reluctantly, just I think it's the right move to just like, this album is what it is. Like, they don't need somebody to, you know what I mean? It's like imagine like any type of like creative project, like there's like a movie or something, and then like a new director comes in halfway through, and you can kind of sense that like one guy was taking it one way and then somebody else like changed it, but it's like forced or whatever. Like, I really didn't want anything to be like that. So in many ways, it made more sense for me to like not play it safe, but like, just, I guess, not take risks in terms of like as many risks in terms of the songwriting or vocal styles or whatever. And another thing too is that I think just on this new album, like I think I'm a much better vocalist than I was then, because I've had so much practice in the last few years. Like I never toured before I joined Fallujah. I had done like local shows and stuff, but now having been in the band and toured heavily, I mean, we've done hundreds of shows together. We've recorded 2 full albums now. Like I've for sure spent more time doing vocals in the last like 2 or 3 years I've been in the band than I did in my whole life combined before that. So like I think just naturally, I mean, you do something for hundreds and hundreds of hours, you get better at it, you know. So I think I leveled up since the last album too, just because now it's like I'm doing vocals full time basically, you know, instead of like something on the side. So to me, it's just one more reason that now I'm like, okay, let's do stuff on this album that I wasn't able to do on the last album for whatever reason.
I do like the analogy you brought up of like a director being swapped out in the middle of a process of making a movie. But this is a little bit different too of the way you took it, because there's a lot of times where movie fans, they find out about that director change, and then it's like, okay, now there's reshoots. Okay, now this movie's going to bomb because there's a vision that was for it. It was created. And now someone is trying to recreate that vision with bits and pieces of that vision, old vision, still being placed in there. So it's not necessarily coherent. What it sounds like what you did was, in terms of music, it's, you know, especially from the beginning of it, it could go so many different directions. It could go from like here to here to here to all the way up. But after the structures of the song had already been written and you're putting your vocal input on there, it seems like that structure had already been made and been held up. So now you can't go to the side, but you can go up this way as long as wherever the structure let you. And that's what you stuck in with, and maybe what you meant by being restricted, where you could go out and venture out in different ways, but you couldn't go and venture out in every way you potentially wanted to, or potentially an idea for, because you were trying to make sure you stayed in the structure of the song that was already there. So when it came to Xenotaph, now with you being able to freely go off and create from the get-go with the band and try something different, maybe try something new, maybe try another idea, maybe try and rework something, you never know what it might be, but the ability to go off in any direction was now there. And that's where, again, more of that connective piece comes in. Plus, like you said, you're learning more as a vocalist, you're practicing more, you're getting better. I think it said something like it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill or something. And the more and more you practice on it, the more and more you're going to get better. The more you're going to learn things and little nuances about your vocals that are going to be able to amplify certain pieces. They're going to be able to bring out more of an aggressive sound, more of a softer sound, whatever it is. Like, do you think, Will Ramos learned the pig squeal into the Hellfire by Lorna Shore in one day? No, it took years and years and years of practicing his voice up to a point where he could potentially try something like that. I could have gone with so many other vocalists as examples, but that's the one that stuck out in my head because I'm like, if I say Will Ramos pig squeal, everyone in the heavy scene knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's the dude nowadays. I teach like screaming vocal lessons as like kind of one of my side things too. And of course that's one of the guys that people bring up, right? Like I want to sound like Will Ramos. Of course. I mean, yeah, he's awesome.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Just the ability of what he could do with his voice. But there's other vocalists too. It's like you might hear, I want to sound like this guy or this guy, but it's okay. I can, especially as a vocalist yourself doing that on the side, you can teach them techniques as to how to discover where their sound comes from. But that's Will Ramos. No one's going to sound exactly like him. You can do some of those similar things, but you're going to have your voice behind it because it is your vocal set. But teaching at the same time has to also show you some different nuances, some different ideas, and learn new things even as yourself as a teacher about what you could potentially do with your voice and how that could amplify the music of Fallujah going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely learned stuff just from like the questions people ask, like how does this guy do this? And I'm like, shit, I don't know. I gotta like look that up, and then I end up learning stuff too, for sure.
Yeah, if we know where you think we're the experts at some, or it's we're the teachers of some, there's always more room to learn. There's always something new to discover. And the more we discover, the more we learn about things, the more we keep that open mind, the greater our ability becomes in terms of whatever we're doing. And in the creative aspect, I think it's more amplified because then it just gives you a lot more freedom and a lot more ability to mess around with and play with whatever different sounds or styles you might be trying to figure out at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So now diving into the writing process for Xenotaph, because of course, with you being fully integrated in the band and being fully involved in the process from back to forth, what was the entire writing process like? Again, going from that restricted feel of the previous album because the structure was already there versus now it's wide open for you guys to do whatever you want with.
Yeah, so okay, I think the first thing that happened was like, before I'm heading into a project, I can't help but try to think of it kind of like big picture. Like, my wife makes fun of me for this, but like I can never just like write one song and release one song. Like if I write one song, immediately in my mind jumps to like, what if there's an album of 10 songs and they're like this and they all go together and this is the opening track or this is, like I can't help but jump to that. And before we started writing anything, I think we developed kind of a clear vision for what type of album we wanted to make. Like we spent some time just like, I think just listening to music and like I remember I met up with our guitarist Scott. Nowadays we live very close to each other, but at the time we didn't. We like, he drove up and we met up and we were going like on our way to a writing session at this cabin to like sit down and start writing stuff from scratch. Like no riffs on the album yet. It's just like write some stuff. And on the way there, I remember just like listening to albums that really influenced us. Some bands like The Faceless is one, Cynic, Necrophagist, all these kind of like legendary prog death metal bands, like albums that just made us even want to get into the genre, when we're younger. Like albums that we see as like the legendary albums in this kind of niche genre. Like we spent a lot of time just listening to those. And in the context of knowing we were about to start writing, like I think we were very actively thinking about like, okay, why are these songs so cool? Like why do we love this music so much? Like why are these particular moments that have like stuck with us for our whole lives? Like why are those moments so special, And like as a musician, you can kind of analyze that. Like think about like, well, like the way they did this transition into the part is like so creative, or like the tones they use or whatever it is, like I feel like that was very much at the forefront of our mind, is like very deliberate inspiration. And one thing that a lot of these albums had in common too is like a lot of the albums from the bands I just mentioned are like very dense, very like crazy technical albums, just with a ton of parts that like all these special moments that maybe happen once and never come back. Like it sort of demands a lot of listening from the listener to like get acquainted with the music. It's like very dense, but at the same time, the albums are kind of short, and that was kind of our goal. Like let's make really dense, crazy music, cram in a ton of ideas, but not let it go super long. Like not make an hour-long album or hour and a half. Let's keep it dense but short. And so that was our goal. We're like, let's write a crazy 30-minute album. And like, let's not spend years on it. Let's just try to sort of bust out something in this format. And we didn't quite hit that goal of a 30-minute album, but it's like 40 minutes. I think it's not super long. It's only 8 tracks, but that was sort of our idea for it. And I think that influenced the writing process a lot. So then when it came to actually writing, it was Scott, who I keep going back to because he's like the founding member. He's the only original member left, actually. Like he's one of the guitarists, and he's been the primary songwriter for Fallujah since the beginning. He will tell you that this is the most collaborative album the band has ever had, where almost all of the writing sessions happened with multiple members. So like there were sessions where Scott and I sat down together, and he's playing guitar and we're talking about things and developing songs, and then meanwhile he's having sessions with our other guitarist Sam, and like some songs are written as like group sessions together, and basically like formed from these different sessions until we had enough songs for an album. And then once we had kind of the skeleton for them, like we would just it was me, Scott, and our new guitarist Sam were kind of like the core of the band right now, and we just spent a lot of time just going over everything together, just reviewing each other's parts, just very collaborative. Like I was throwing stuff on the guitars, they were throwing in input on the vocals. Everybody's working on each other's parts. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then once we had the instrumentals, then I go and look at all the vocals. And at the very end of the process, the other thing I do in the band is I add like the keyboards and synths and stuff. But we put ourselves on a real time crunch challenge for this album, so I did all the synths in like 3 or 4 days at the end. But that was kind of the process. We did it very quickly for our standards. Squeezed it into a couple of months, and then yeah, ended up making something that felt very like not like spontaneous exactly, but like it just felt very fast paced and exciting while we were writing.
I mean, for you guys saying that it was faster compared to like your standards and it was a 4-month process, lately, especially on this podcast, and I've been hearing bands talk about their writing sessions or recording sessions, sometimes it's like, yeah, we had like a 4 or 5 week stint out in, some other place in the United States, and that's all the time we had to get this done from scratch to finish. And it's like, how are you doing this?
No way. We couldn't do that.
I'll say when I hear 4 months and that's really quick by your standards, I'm like, okay, this band is definitely different than the other ones I've been interviewing recently.
Well, it's actually longer than that too, even though it was like fast. Like it was something like that. I think I spent about 3 months just on the vocals after we had the instrumentals done. But just again by our standards, like it was. I can't imagine it having been much more fast paced than this. Like a big chunk of the process, like for me writing the vocals, it was right when I moved to Tennessee and quit my job and like literally just worked on the album full time. Like it was a very rare opportunity for me to like literally just work on the album and nothing else, like not juggling other jobs, responsibilities or whatever. Even like tours, like it was just obsess over the album for months. And even with that and like working, pushing myself to work fast, it still takes months.
Yeah, because it's not something that, especially in the creative process, it depends upon the type of person you are. It depends upon how you inspire, how you write. But it seems like consistently, the more time you have is going to be better because you're able to flesh out a lot more ideas. You're able to let that inspiration come, and you're not so focused in on trying to hit a deadline. You're focused in on trying to make it sound the best way that you think it's going to sound. So a longer process, especially for the type of music that you guys make, having more of that progressive style behind the death metal, it does make sense. The one thing I do want to highlight, though, is when you were talking about coming up with inspiration for this, you guys were deliberately focused in on this. And that's something I think that a lot of people, when it comes to understanding music and appreciating it, can get a better understanding of how to do that versus compared to what you guys went through. Where what you guys went through, taking a look at, okay, these progressions, these different tones, why did they put those in there? Why was that this idea? So that, maybe if we're thinking about this, how can we maybe use something like that to capitalize on a feeling or capitalize on emotion or capitalize on a piece of storytelling? Because that's really where music drives from. And when people connect with different albums, different songs, different bands, whatever it might be, there's going to be a piece of that in there that's going to connect with you on a much more mentally, psychologically emotional state, specifically on the emotional side. So if you're able to get a better, deeper understanding of that, not only do you get a better appreciation for that music, but you get a better appreciation for other bands and other artists that might be doing either something similar that makes you feel that way or something different that makes you feel a different way, but you still enjoy it. Because it's, again, we can all love the same heavy kind of stuff as well. Like, I was going through like a list of my favorite bands with people, and it was like, yeah, a lot of these are much more like the modern metalcore bands, much heavier as well. But then my favorite band of all time is a punk band. It's like, well, why does that happen in there? And if I wanted to, I could go over 25 minutes explaining all of this, but
Yeah.
it's something where, as music fans, we can learn to appreciate so many other pieces of music if we kind of go through that same process of deliberately understanding those influences and deliberately understanding why those pieces resonate with us, from whether it's a full song or just a specific section of a small piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 'cause I think at the end of the day, it's like we're like fans too, like
Mhm.
of this music. Like that's I think we're like the biggest fans. Like we're such big fans of metal that we like dedicated our lives to it. You know what I mean? Like but I think it's kind of funny. Like I've seen comments once in a while over the years, like on stuff where people will like comment on one of our things and like sort of tell us like how do I say it? They're like sort of speaking to us like, well, as a metal fan, like this is what we want. And it's like, dude, we're metal fans too. Like we could not be bigger fans of metal, like of these bands, like that influenced us. So I think, treating it like that, just like taking us back to like literally the music that got us excited to make music. We're like, let's try to channel that into our music just in the purest form, and maybe it would even have that like impact on somebody else. Like that would be like the ultimate goal, right? Like imagine if we could make somebody else feel the same way that those albums made us feel.
Well, and the
And
crazy thing too is come, another like 10 years or so, you might be seeing comments on other bands' pages or other bands' stuff, and they'll say, as a metal fan, you should be sounding more like Fallujah, Xenotaph, where right now it's like they'll be saying the same thing to you, but they'll be saying albums from 5 or 10 years ago. It's just the way things work. It's just the way humans are.
yeah.
But what you did say does stand out too, especially as, creators of music. You're some of the biggest metal fans out there because you dedicated your lives to it. And you want to create something and add to that as well. And you want to say it in the way that you want to say it. And if you're not the ones that are like absolutely stoked and like getting that feeling of excitement that when the albums that influence you are giving you, then it's just not going to have that energy that you need to have it have in order to basically be an album I would say that you're really, really, really connected to, but at the same time want to continue to play songs for years and years and years.
Totally, which we definitely will. Yeah, I think we all love this album. I mean, I'm so stoked on how it came out, and like I think just this is such like a passion project for us. Like I think there's just so much love and detail like put into these songs that yeah, like I think we kind of did it on our own terms and worked on it in a place where we had like the sort of time to like just really get it to that point, because sometimes you don't have that luxury of like
Mhm.
having the time to sort of make whatever album you want. But this time we really did. We had the freedom and like the right crew to make it happen. So yeah, I think everything really aligned and we're really happy with how it came out.
I hope you guys continue to get that luxury, though, and I hope Everest continues to get that luxury where you have the time to create this stuff and you have the time to let it flow, and you're not confounded by other responsibilities like, okay, I have to go do this project, I have to go to this job, because again, I want to see more of the creativity happen. And also, I don't want to see it's like we have to get this record out this time because X person or X label wants us to have it out at this specific time. Because if you're going to be running up against a deadline, like I said earlier, you're going to limit the ability of what creativity has to offer. Unless you're the type of creative person that when you're under that pressure, something just clicks. It could work out for you, but typically as a creative, the more time you have, the better off you're going to be when it comes to fleshing out a full song, full album, whatever project you're working on at that time.
Yeah, I kind of relate to both because I do sort of thrive on deadlines. Like I need to, if I don't have enough time, like it won't be enough time, and it won't be good. But like
Mm-hmm.
if having deadlines does help me, like if I know like, okay, this song's got to be done next month and I know that a month is plenty of time to do the song, I'm like, okay, like this will get me to like really kick my ass into gear, the last 2 weeks or whatever before the deadline. Like it's, of course it's not good if it's like, it's due tomorrow, dude. And like, yeah, that you can't force something overnight, but I think having deadlines is good for me. Like that does motivate me to work harder for sure. So it's a balance. I think as long as your deadlines aren't restricting you too much, then it can be helpful. But everybody's different. I don't know. I
Yeah,
kind of settle into my own flow.
or not only that, but as long as you have enough self-awareness as a creative to know where you work best and how your process works best in order to maximize out on the potential of your own creativity in your own mind.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Like I know that I'll need a certain amount of time where it's like, okay, I've got this many days, to work on the thing. I know not every day is going to be like as good of a session, or like not every day is going to be as productive in terms of writing. So like give myself extra time. And when I account for that, then, it can all go well.
Well, that's where I'm going to go with this next, because we're talking about, of course, writing, but sometimes, like you said, sometimes it can be tougher. Sometimes it can be a time constraint. Sometimes you can have those songs that you just look back at and think, that was a tough one to write. That process was a slog to get through. So on Xenotaph, was there a song like that you guys just struggled to write through and get through and really come into full fruition? Like, basically, what was the hardest song to write on this bad boy?
Yeah. There definitely were parts. Like for me, it was kind of two separate processes, because there was the process of making the music, like the instrumentals, and then there was the process of doing the vocals. And I know for me, there were a couple songs with vocals that I got way more stuck on, that took way more time. Just like moments I remember just spending hours trying to figure out one line here and there, just getting stuck, for whatever reason. Um, I feel like the instrumental process was a bit more smooth than that. Like some songs took longer, I guess, but there was no one song that was like, oh God, this is like the nightmare song to finish. Um, there was one song that came together very last minute, which was the final track, but that one actually went great in the end. It was like that one was getting to the point where it was almost gonna stress me out, where it's like, dude, we still gotta write the last fucking song on this album. Like we have like two riffs for it, and we have this idea it's gonna be a big epic song. Like hopefully we can do that. But that last song came together really nicely in a couple of group sessions, and we're like, oh, we pulled it off. All right, like that crisis averted, like we finished that one in time to have everything done. That was the only one that like started to get questionable, in terms of like if we would have enough time to really flesh it out. But we did. For the vocals, I think the one that took me the longest was track 4, called "The Crystalline Veil." That one, it's not even the longest song on the album, but I think it has the most words. It has like so many different vocal parts, and they're just so slammed in back to back, and there's just so many different sections. Couple of parts that I found harder to like write over in terms of the riffs. Like sometimes I'll like hear the parts and know exactly what sort of melodies or phrasing I want, or at least have a pretty good idea. That one, there were some parts that stumped me and like took me a lot of revisions to get to the point where I got something that I was happy with. So that one took me the longest. And then on the tail end of that, some songs came together really quickly, like the intro track, which is called "In Stars We Drown." That one, I wrote all the lyrics in one day. That was like the first one I worked on for the album. And when I finally like sat down to like, okay, today I'm gonna start writing the album, like that one just came out, just happened really quickly. So sometimes you get lucky and that happens too. Just it kind of depends.
Yeah, but again, as we hear about this and we get to learn more about not only the writing process, what it took to get these songs put together, a couple of things cross our minds. One, if you're a musician and if you're writing, you just see kind of like the things that happen in terms of the writing process of, with maybe some of your favorite bands too, the things that come easy, the things that are struggles, or maybe you connect with the songs or like that. Or us as just music fans in general, we get to see exactly where that process came from, but also get a better indication of, okay, when it comes to this song, okay, maybe why was this piece like, a little bit tougher? Well, like you said, with Crystalline Veil, there's so many words to it. There's so many different small sections to it that you're trying to go through, especially from a vocalist standpoint. It's going to be tough to be able to take that time frame and all the vocals and all the pieces you want to put in there and not only compress it to that time frame, but make it all fit and flow naturally. So there's a whole different aspect behind it. But that's what I love about asking that question. We get an in-depth look at sometimes the challenges that these songs can pose. But a lot of times, those tougher songs to write end up being the ones that become the ones that fans resonate the most with on the record.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much detail. I mean, part of it's just the nature of the genre, doing like progressive metal. Like there's a lot of notes, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of things that happen, a lot of different parts, and changes through the music. But I think just, that level of detail just can't happen overnight. And I'm sure people will hear how much time went into it just from the nature of how much stuff is going on in the songs.
Yeah, and again, there's not just Crystalline Veil. There's a lot of other songs on this record where there's a lot going on. And that's going to come up with another question for me. And now, like you said, there was a single that was recently released by the time we record this. And at the time of recording, I believe there are 3 singles that are out right now, which means, of course, 5 songs left to go to be heard. And we can all listen to the singles that are out there right now. Of course, they've been out there. You know what they sound like. If you're a big Fallujah fan, if you're not a Fallujah fan, you can go and listen to those songs right now. But we're not interested in those. We're just in the 5 that are unreleased yet. So out of the 5 that are not released, which is the one you are most excited for people to hear and why?
Oh man, great question. Yeah, see, I love talking about those songs because obviously we haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
It's like our secret songs. Like I remember I was so excited to talk about the first single when that dropped because it's like when you sit on an album like this for close to a year or whatever, it's like you're so eager to like finally share the music. So yeah, I love that question. For me, I'll say I'll narrow it down to the first song or the last song. I think that even though the first song is kind of a short one and like one of the more simpler tracks on the record, like it's basically an intro song. I think that's gonna be the one I'm most excited for. It's like to me, it's just I think as soon as you finish that intro, you already know what type of album you're getting into. Like just something about that one is so I think it just really captures like the spirit of the album, and I'm very excited for people to hear it. It's got some of my favorite melodies and favorite parts on it. I could totally see it being our like show opener song for a long time. Just very excited about that one. I think it kind of like it just makes the album feel epic going into it. Like it has this long build up at the beginning, and yeah, just very connected to that one. And then apart from that, I would say the last song, the title track, Xenotaph. I'm sure the other guys would probably say that's the one they're most excited to share. It's like it's the longest song on the album. It's got just a lot going on in that one too. I think that's the song to like if there's any older fans of Fallujah that aren't totally sure about the new direction, to me, like that's the one that's obviously going to sell them on the new stuff. I'm like, that one is just, I think there's just a lot to love there for like current Fallujah fans. But yeah, I'm going to say the intro track. I feel like my bandmates would say the last one, but the intro for me, I think just it just feels like, I think it's the best intro Fallujah has ever had. It just feels like such an, it makes such a statement, I think, right at the beginning.
I would have to agree with you on the intro track making a statement because whenever I, get to have a band on the podcast or on the podcast like this coming out with a new album, I'm going to go through each song, write down my thoughts on it, and then create like an overall synopsis of what I thought of it. And I always pull it up on another screen too, so I don't forget. For the intro, I said, overall for the intro song, this really sets the overall tone and mood for the album from the first and second parts. That ambient, more ominous opening with programming and softer sounds create that transition in this life feel before the rest of the song hits and shows a heavier, more aggressive, shredding side of death metal that makes us think we are going somewhere unexpected, but still welcoming that change overall. And then that jumps right into Kaleidoscope Waves, which overall on the record, for my personal taste, is my favorite song on the record. But it just has that great lead into the album. And then you're going into this album thinking, that you're going through some type of transition, and maybe it's not that like transition in life that you were absolutely expecting, but you're open to the opportunity, you're open to the change, and you're open to seeing what's happening. It's not like, we got to make the best of it. It's like, I wasn't expecting this, but I'm really curious to see how this overall thing is going to play out in life. And over the course of like around 36, 37 minutes that this album is, you get to experience that in the span of 8 tracks.
Totally, man. Yeah, I love that interpretation. Totally. I think, like you said, that song you mentioned, track 2, that was the first single. That was like we chose that as like the first song to promote the album, and I think that, like you said, because the intro kind of connects into it, I think it hits with a pretty different context, like when you hear it in terms of the album, which I think is cool too. Like I think just putting on track 2 feels one way, but to me, like if you lead into it from track 1, the way they connect, it's like that's how you're really supposed to experience that song. So I'm excited for people to hear it in that context as well.
That's why I'm definitely happy I waited until I got the album stream to go through it 1 through 8 instead of, listening to the singles first. Because then I got to experience it as my first time listening through it. And then when I went back to it later on, I just listened to Kaleidoscope Waves on its own. It definitely still has a great feel to it. But when you add the intro in front of it, it has such this bigger lead in to the point where instead of starting, at just opening the song up for the first time ever at that average or like neutral level, you're already starting up here with it in terms of your emotion and your overall mood. So that's where I think the song really ended up amplifying not only the intro and the Kaleidoscope Waves, but also the album in full as well. So again, there's a lot of greatness that's going on here. The progression, the storytelling is fantastic with what you guys are doing. And that intro, you never really hear an intro song be the one that someone's most excited for people to hear. But on this album, it does make sense that that's the one that's not been released yet as to be your one to pick to be the most exciting.
Yeah, well, and you know what? I think that intro too, like years ago, like I remember when we released our previous album, Empyrean, and like had started touring on it. I remember saying way back, like our next album, this is like way jumping the gun, but I was like, next time we sit down and do an album, I think it should start like this. Like we should do this. Like I basically described the intro we made for this one. Like it totally captures like exactly how I imagined it. Like for a long time. Like the intro track, like the music of it was mostly written by our guitarist Scott, like on his own. He kind of like brought that one in one day. And I was like, dude, this is exactly like I think he sort of did it based on what I was describing too. Like I was like, it's got to start all spacey and then like bring in the leads and like go get like heavier from then, but like keep it short and like kind of give you a view of like all the different stuff Fallujah can do. Like he wrote that. I was like, this is exactly what I imagined. This is like totally the feeling I was trying to go for. So to me, it's like very cool too that yeah, I just feel like that song was just something that I totally envisioned having something that gave that feeling years ago. And so now to like have that realized, I'm like, dude, we did it. This is like exactly what I would have hoped we could come up with something like this. So yeah, I'm extra excited for that one.
And again, it comes full circle to why this album is going to be so special for you, because this is an idea that you had at your early stages of being a member of Fallujah. And then when it came time for you to fully be involved in the writing process for this brand new album, Xenotaph, it took full and took fruition. And yeah, and also having Kaleidoscope Waves as the number 2 song on there makes sense, because that song, of course, can stand out on its own, but with the intro, it gets even more amplified because of it. And unfortunately, we know, especially in today's day and age, especially in the streaming world, there's a lot of people that'll just skip the intros or interludes. But it's like, if you're going to skip this one, you're going to be missing out on something that you're, going to want to take hold. However, it seems like, especially, more of the death metal fans, they're definitely going to be down for a full album run through compared to, especially I would say the modern day music fan. And I'm not talking just rock or metal. I'm talking every genre around there. Include it all in there. Put the average fan in there. Trust me, they're definitely missing out if they're missing out in the intros and interludes or anything like that.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's easy to forget that. Like it's easy to get caught up in the modern, like, or just the concept of like modern music marketing. It's like, oh, you gotta like do singles. You gotta stay relevant. Like, nobody wants albums anymore. They just want, one song for their playlist, whatever. Like I think in some genres that's true, where it's like better to just do singles. But I think in the world of death metal and progressive music and all that type of stuff, like people want albums and they have the attention span for it. It's like I've seen it myself. Like I've even had this thought, because like we've thought about how we want to release music, and like maybe it's maybe we just want to do one-off singles sometimes, or just something to stay relevant on in the scene on the internet and everything. But like seeing this and just seeing the effect that like I think if we had just released the first single and there's no album attached to it, I think people would say like, oh, it's, maybe they like the song, maybe they don't, whatever. But it's like, it kind of just be what it is and people move on. But like I've seen the impact of like people knowing that there's this full album of stuff that's connected to this, like just knowing it's part of this bigger work. I think especially in this genre, it has a lot of power. And I've really seen people like respond to that. Like that's, everybody knows that it's like, I think it makes you as a listener like appreciate the first song you hear like even more, just knowing it's part of some big thing. It adds to the appeal in a really big way that maybe like in something like a country album, like it's just not the same like thing, like you think like, oh, I love the song or I don't love the song, whatever. Here you're like, oh my God, it's this big epic work. It's just a big part of the genre, I think, is the albums still have a lot of power and are totally still just as relevant as ever, I think.
Yeah, and while if you take, again, the average of everybody making music, every genre, and put it together, the single-dominated format's going to be the one that wins out, because that's having the most amount of success in the realms of the pop world, rap, possibly country as well, because it's those songs, it's just like they're trying to get them to be pop off on the internet, on, if radio's still going to be their thing, streaming numbers, the TikTok stuff, all of that. But you got to know your audience too, and you have to understand what exactly they're going after. And it seems like especially metal fans, especially go more on the progressive side, death metal side, they want that full album experience still. They're the ones that are still going out there buying vinyls consistently. They're the ones that want to, still sit down and listen through it from back to forth back to front or front to back. I said back to front. If you want to go backwards on it, go
Yeah,
for
whatever.
it. Sometimes you can have a great experience doing that. It might be worth it. Why not? But where I'm trying to go with that is if you know exactly what your audience wants or what your audience is really in for, especially in terms of music delivery, then you can mold your creativity to work into that, or because you're going to have this whole creative piece. But when it comes to the rollout, how can we do this? Okay, want to do an album side? All right, an intro and an interlude might absolutely make sense for that piece. In the rap world, it ain't going to work. In the pop world, it ain't going to work. In the metal world, though, oh yeah, it can definitely work.
And just even like if I just ask myself what I enjoy, like as a fan again, of music, it's like same thing. It's like I still love albums. I get more excited for albums than for
Yeah.
I just naturally gravitate to that, and so I can just look at that and say like, okay, there's, because again, it's like it's one of those things where some people will talk as if the format is like dead or on its way out, And I'm not knocking the other approach either. Like there's, sometimes there's a time and place for singles. Maybe we'll still do that someday. Who knows? I'm never say never, but yeah, just despite trends, it's like very clear to me that there's still a lot of power and a lot of benefit in packaging your music as like some bigger connected experience, like an album.
Yeah, and I think this anecdote I just remembered from my own personal experience might fit in with this. So remember, this was like 2021, maybe I want to say. Moses and White released a song called Time Bomb where one of their guitarists was doing clean vocals on it. And it was a one-off single. It's called Time Bomb. I think I said that. And I really liked that song. Don't get me wrong. I really liked it. But then they started working on the release for Scoring the End of the World. And there are songs on there that I remember more and just remember to listen to more that I do not like as much as Time Bomb. But Time Bomb is one that I still want to listen to. And I love whenever I see it pop up. But it doesn't cross my mind more because it's not connected to an album.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
There's songs that I still think about. I'm like, I love this song because it's connected to an album. It's connected to a feeling from that album, and I can associate it with it. But without that, especially in the rock and metal world, at times you lose out on that if the singles aren't going to be just the most bombastic thing you ever heard or connect with you on such an emotional level that you cannot get rid of it. Of course, the delivery of it in single form, I understand. But like you did say, Kyle, when there is that anticipation that it's part of a larger work, the connection and the hype just turns into an experience, a shared experience that people really crave and people are going to connect with more than just the drop of a single.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we may have just broken the whole entire, okay, what's a great reason should we just go with singles? No. And there's our reason why, especially in the rock and metal world, right then and there.
Right. And then of course it does take, 10 times as long to make an album than a single. So of course, like sometimes you have to, sometimes you just have a certain amount of time between tours and you're like, you know what, let's write a song. Like there's a place for that too. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. Just obviously the trend is moving away from that, but I don't see it as being a permanent trend. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it's the nature of the music to just make sense in this bigger format.
No trend in music is a permanent trend. I mean, think
That's
about
true.
it. Albums were the big thing, and then all of a sudden now it's single dominated. It used to be all about CDs and MP3s, and now it's streaming. There's going to be something that comes next. Who knows what it is, but something's coming to replace it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, and even albums are like made to, like, how do I say it? They're made to fit the physical format of the time. Like in terms of the time restrictions, like, CDs fit what, like it's like 78 minutes or 79 minutes or something like that. And like you would see all these albums that it's like maybe they're an hour long, but they're not over an hour and 17 minutes because that's all that fits on the CD, And then, with vinyl before that, it's like you fit 20 something minutes on each side. And so you'd see more like 40-minute albums before like double LPs were a thing. It's like music has to exist in context of like how people, like the formats of how people experience it. And so I think even just like runtimes, like, things get influenced by formats. And now with Spotify being, you can just put on any song anywhere. It's like now singles are viable because you're not like printing a CD for every single song or whatever, like it just is driven by the way people consume the media too, I think.
Yeah, it's a great point. Music is going to be, like, creativity is also going to be influenced by the delivery system. And it makes a lot of sense. And of course, You guys are going to go about it the way that you're going to go about it as a creative, and this is what we came up with Xenotaph, which is absolutely incredible. But Kyle, I do got one more question I want to ask before we wrap this up. It is one of my favorite questions to ask people, as sometimes they get stumped, sometimes it just flows well, but
what is the square root of...
Oh, no. It gives us a chance to learn about more great new music and gives you a chance to promote the music that you love. So I'm going to have to limit it to 3. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Ooh, good question. Okay, you know what? These first 2 are gonna feel like almost a cop out, but I promise it's genuine. So we just announced a tour this morning, a European tour that we're doing early next year with 2 bands. I'm gonna promote these 2 bands right now because one of them I got into more recently because of this tour coming up, and one I've loved for a long time and literally didn't know was on the tour until this morning. So I'm very excited about these 2 bands are going to tour with, basically. But I'm going to shout these out first of all. So one of them is the band Omnium Gatherum. They're headlining this Europe tour we're doing. They're a bit older than us, like they've been around for quite a while. Just like epic European melodic death metal band. I love their 2013 album Beyond. It's really good. I kind of got hooked on it like the last couple months, but I genuinely just keep going to it constantly. Like I really love the album a lot. So check them out. And I think I've learned they're a lot bigger in Europe, but a lot of people here don't know them. Like I barely knew them. I kind of heard the name around, but I'm realizing like all my European friends know this band, and a lot of my U.S. friends don't. So check out Omnium Gatherum. And then the other band on this tour is a band called In Mourning, like Mourning. Epic band I got into way back. I remember downloading their album in like 2012 or something like that. This album called The Weight of Oceans, just because I thought the album artwork was cool. Like literally, I was like, "That's a cool art like album cover. I'm gonna like get this album," And really stuck with me for many years. Like really love that album, The Weight of Oceans by In Mourning. And funny enough, I actually DM'd them a couple months ago just because I was just on a kick listening to them. I was like, hey, this is like random, but just want to say I'm like a big fan and would like love to tour with you guys someday if that ever works out. Like I think our bands would mesh well. Totally random. And then now they're on the tour, not because of my message at all. Like we both got brought onto the same tour by the headliner, so it's not even like we hit them up or anything. Just crazy coincidence. I'm like, wow, that was convenient, But gotta shout that band out. Love that band. I'm very excited to tour with them soon too. And then, okay, for the third one, I'll think of something different. Let's say, you know what? Actually, I got to shout this one out. I'm going to shout out my friend's band Grey Lotus, who I'm filling in with a tour for soon. Check them out. They super underrated, very sick band. They have a new EP called Motherwort that came out end of last year. Yeah, check it out. Sick band. If you're into like really crazy, dense, technical, like shreddy sort of metal, but with a lot of like surprising changes and emotion in it, like check out Grey Lotus.
That's why I love asking this question, because I never know the answer I'm going to get. And those are 3 great answers. 2 bands that you're touring with to help get more people into them, and then the one you're filling in for as well. And there's times when people are like, "Oh, can I shout out my side project?" I'm like, "That's what this is here for, so go for it." So that's the perfect response.
Yeah, I didn't even shout out my side project. We'll save that for a different time.
We'll save that for the next time. How about that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Kyle, as we bring this podcast to a conclusion, I want to say thank you, and I have 3 things to close this out with. First thing is, when it comes to Fallujah, when it comes to Xenotaph coming out on June 13th, 2025, you're going to want to make sure you're in the know with it. You make sure you're following along with them. Make sure you're ready for the album to come out. And when you get to go see them on tour, whether you're going to be in Europe or hopefully when they come and tour the U.S., maybe later 2025, 2026, or that's going to happen. It's going to happen. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to description of the podcast where it says Find Fallujah Online. Links, labels for everything going to be down there for you. You can follow them online, where you can stream their music, where you can get a copy of the album when it comes out, and get some merch and find where they're going to be playing shows and where you can get your tickets. It's all down there. I'm doing all the work. Just click, tap, go. You're set. Now it's time for number 2. Whenever I've guests on the podcast, so I enjoy the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish to continue to support the band in the future. And this is the promise, because you absolutely hit on it. When I get to see you perform live for the first time, I will find a way to come and find you. I will come and find a way to say hello to you. But that's not the promise. The real promise is first round's on me.
Dude, sick. Let's do it. I do merch for us too, so I'm very easy to find at our shows. Come to the merch table, you'll find me.
Oh, that's super easy.
Let's freaking do it, dude.
Be the merch table, be there like, hi, buddy.
Yeah. I'll be like, the line can wait. We're going to the bar.
Yeah. And now it's time for number 3, Kyle. I cannot end this by saying goodbye because I made you a promise, and this was a lot of fun. I would love to be back on the podcast as a guest in the future because then when I ask you the question about name 3 bands, you can be like, oh, I could probably name my side project. Hell yeah, baby.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so that means this cannot be goodbye, my friend. This has to be, I'll see you later.
Sounds good, bro. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, folks, my interview with Kyle from Fallujah. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. We're going to stick with it like this. So we were getting really, really deep into the whole entire creation process of this and how Kyle was much more involved with this one compared to Empyrean, where, of course, the structure's already there and then his vocals were coming in there. I know he said more restrictive on writing the last one compared to this one, but again, it's not restrictive in a way of like they forced him to do certain things. It was just he wanted to make sure he was doing his creative part and not really messing around with the structure of the songs that were already created at that point in time. But when you get to have much more of a deeper connection to songs and to the stuff that you're creating, you're going to have a much more embedded emotional investment into it. Not necessarily say like, oh, I want to see it succeed, because of course you want to see it succeed, but you're going to put that extra effort in there to make sure that it is as good as it possibly can be and connect with you and connect with the audience as much as it possibly can as well. Think about anything you did as a kid that required creativity. You know, if you started that up with somebody after they'd already started it, you just weren't as connected as that other person was. But if you started, you were all in on it and got frustrated when other kids just weren't as into it. Maybe you're in business right now and you're trying to do a project or whatnot, you're trying to start something, and halfway through the process, someone comes in and tries to change it up. Well, it's just the connectivity of it. You know, you're going to be connected to the stuff that you had been part of that full creative process for. We saw that with Kyle from Fallujah on Xenotaph. We see it happen in the music, and we see that's exactly why, you know, like the intro song ends up being the one he's most excited for people to listen to on release day that's not been released as a single already. It shows. And I was really happy I got a chance to talk to him about this. So when it comes to Fallujah, please go straight to the podcast below where it says Find Fallujah Online. Links for everything going to be down there. You can also follow us on the Corporate Podcast. Links down there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit subscribe right down here on YouTube to make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for the Corporate Podcast. Hit the follow or subscribe button on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. New episodes every single Tuesday and Thursday. Hit the like button to help push these episodes as well. Yes, the sirens are going off in the background, but we don't care here. Just add to the ambience, actually. So I want to thank everybody for checking us out. And that's going to be it for me, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Good Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single one. So big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah.